Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we remembered where we were in the MinstrelBuff plugin, which we'd set aside for a month, and then got distracted adding a basic war speech display. And war speech is an ability of red line minstrels. Today I'm going to continue to get distracted because last time I remembered, or re-remembered, that minstrels have a freedom trait in redline, which does let them heal their pretty much anyone friendly, I think, maybe just fellowship members, every once in a while. And I just never take advantage of that because I don't have a visual to say, yo, you can heal other people. So I'm going to get distracted trying to fix that. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And chat, Farthen says hello and warm welcome. Warm welcome to you as well. I'm feeling a little scattered today. Normally I have plenty of time before the stream to be like, what am I going to do today? And today we had a rescheduled class from yesterday, which of course was Pinksterdag, or Wit Monday, here in the Netherlands. And so, yeah, we got home and it's like, 30 minutes to stream. Rush. So, here we are. That being said, let's go ahead and... That says, is this a new background stream? It depends on what you mean by new and background and stream. But I have been here on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock for quite some time now, almost half a year, maybe more. And behind me, the one new thing that you might be able to see is a cat tower for some cats we have recently brought into the house. Oh, computer, why are you behaving poorly? Those cats are a little skittish right now, so they're going to stay as far upstairs as they can, probably, for the course of the stream. But if you see them, let me know. I'll probably notice. Okay. Is it you? Is this window causing my computer to make noise? I don't know. Okay, so, minstrels. If you are playing a minstrel, and I recommend that you do, they're great. And you will notice that there are, of course, the three trait trees, like most classes have. You've got the blue, the red, and the yellow. In this case, people mostly use the blue for healing, especially in raids and fellowship activities, and people use red to have fun. I mean, they use red to do damage. And if you go ahead and select the warrior skald, then one of the things you unlock pretty early on, yes, here you go, is freedom, which says, calls have a chance to trigger the ability to use a single healing skill from another stance. Plus 10% chance for war speech calls and cry of the wizards. War speech calls and cry of the wizard to allow for use of Raise the Spirit, Court of Salvation, or the improved version of these skills for 10 seconds. Now you might ask, what is a war speech call? That's an excellent question. I don't know, except... that I believe war speech was what they used to call... This might be a holdover from a previous era, where war speech was either the name of this red line or the name of dissonant stance. I'm not sure which. I think it was the warrior skald. So if it says cry in the name, it's probably good. I don't know if Call of the Second Age, it does say it is a cry, but I don't know if it counts. It doesn't say cry in the name. But Call of the Wizards is... Cry of the Wizards is explicitly called out. Cool. Cry of the Valor is called out. Is that a... It's not a call, it's a cry, so maybe not. And this is a cry, but it's a skill type call. That's great. So I don't know. Oh, wait, this one is a skill type call. Okay, so Call of the Second Age. Yes, that's probably good. And Call of Arome, that's probably good. So those in Cry of the Wizards are probably what can trigger this. It might be useful to record the skill that triggered this and spit it out, just so I can build up that internal knowledge of what do I do to make this happen. That'd be cool. Cool, okay. So, I did a little digging before this stream, not today. I was a little bit busy today. But I did a little bit of digging, and I discovered that when freedom does activate, Rathan says, I didn't notice the war speech until I watched the stream of last week. Thanks. Yeah, this this ability from Dissonant Ballads to grant you plus 5% tactical damage, it's just something like I'm sure I read it at some point, and then I was like, oh, I have forgotten it. And it really helps remind you why so many minstrel players like having ballads in their rotations. Not only does it reduce the cooldown of your calls and cries by a second, but also +2 damage. Yeah, that was a really cool thing to stumble upon and be like, okay, let's bake that into this plugin. Okay, yeah, so Freedom, when it happens, and here I am in the 21st hall, it's going to be a little bit harder for things to happen. I might go to my neighborhood, because I might have to like fight real things, but I'd rather do it in a controlled setting. So let's go ahead and travel to Personal House. By the way, I highly recommend just filling your house field with windmills. It's great. And then when you appear, you're like, hey, it's a windmill. My day just got better. Awesome. Let's ride on over here. Arkin has many of the houses in this neighborhood, and one of the things we've done is set up a crafting and sparring area in the northeast here. This is the Whitwich neighborhood on the Treebeard server in the Shire neighborhoods. And over here in the northeast corner of whatever this is, 2 Chalk Road, there is a training dummy stand. So we're going to go ahead and call this out. Okay. I'm going to do a couple of things here, see if I can't get a proc to happen. But since it's only a 10% chance, it's a little bit of a gamble. Oh, that's War Speech. Plus I have to remember what it looks like. Oh. That's battle damage, that's War Speech. I think it just looks like one of these music notes. So we're just going to see if we can do this. And then I think I'm going to use this effort of making it happen, drive the development of a debug panel that lets us just turn it on and off at will. I think that'll make a lot more sense. %10 chance. Now the other thing is, if I'm misremembering what it looks like, that would be very sad. Give me my proc. There we go. Melodic Interlude. So Freedom does not produce an effect called Freedom on your character, which was a surprise to me. I initially, in my, oh, hey Rose, in my exploration, I initially was like, cool, plugin, tell me whenever I get Freedom, and it never happened. Oh, neat. I have someone that I can practice healing with. That'll be useful at some point. So yes, for 10 seconds you get an effect called Melodic Interlude, which was one of those things where you just have to discover what is this thing called. But now that we know what it's called, we can kind of run with that for a little while we play with the development. Cool. Now, some of that was a duplication of effort because I had previously pulled off the tooltips for Freedom and Melodic Interlude. Just in case I couldn't proc it in-game, I could at least say, yes, it was done. And it's one of those things where once I have a plugin that starts saying, oh, you have it, oh, you have it, I think I'm going to notice it a lot more. It's not just going to be once every 5 minutes. It's probably going to be more like once a minute because I use these calls and cries so often when we're running through an instance. But until then. All right, where was I? I was working on War Speech. Let's go ahead and finish this War Chant UI for right now. And this is a git flow feature where you can have bits and pieces off in separate branches. We're just going to start a new branch here so we can keep track of things, the changes that we make discreetly. So I'm going to start a new feature, and this one's just going to be freedom/melodic interlude. Now you may ask, why am I bothering to include both of those effect names? Because while I can remember Freedom, and I can find it again very easily, I cannot for the life of me remember Melodic Interlude. I'm pretty sure I had to go to the wiki and add links between these things last week when I was first doing the research, because information is kind of scarce on a thing that you never see unless you're poking around the effects list. So, Freedom Melodic Interlude, then every time I look at this branch name, I'm going to be like, oh, right, that's the name of the thing, Melodic Interlude. Awesome. Okay. And I don't think I need to commit this right now, so it's just going to sit around as a reference. Let me go ahead and push those changes out. Okay. Oh, you program, why are you going to ding at me? Stop dinging. Okay, so let's go ahead and start making some changes. Now, I do believe that, let's see, Elizabeth is going to be streaming right after me from 4 to 6 Eastern time. And she's going to do some giveaways and stuff, so I cannot go late. I7 says hello. Hello to you in chat. So we're going to go ahead and try to move right along here. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and add the thing that we're looking for to our Minstrel effects files. We have a Minstrel effects file for each of the languages that we're supporting, and we just want to go ahead and add, and we're just going to continue in the naming scheme that they've got going here. I have some thoughts on this naming scheme, but for right now, it's fine. So we had valid war speech skill names, valid yellow trait skill names. We're just going to go ahead and add valid melodic interlude names. Interesting. It auto-populated. That was very nice of it. So why are we calling it valid melodic interlude names? Well, A, we're just being consistent. Hello, I7 in chat. You are welcome to follow my personal channel. Actually, thanks for asking about that in chat. I stream rarely over there. Most of my streaming is done here on the LOTRO stream channel, but you're, of course, welcome to toss that channel a follow. Maybe it tells you when I go live here. I, despite being here, am pretty new to how Twitch works, so let me know. Let me know if that's how Twitch works. If I start streaming on another channel, with the hashtag or the exclamation point streamer command, does Twitch know? Does it tell you? I don't know. Cool. Okay, so we're doing this both to be consistent, and though I doubt SSG is going to change how this works anytime soon, you could imagine a world in which multiple things that you can see in the effects list mean that this is active. Maybe it's called melodic interlude, but eventually they call it discordant interlude or something, right? So having multiple things possibly make this true does make sense. It's not always a one-to-one. Like the valid cry skill names, there can be a lot of cries. Or yeah, you could have a basic and an improved version of the names. I7 says no problems. Always good to support all the individual channels. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Cool. We're going to go ahead and call this melodic interlude. And this is the thing that we're seeing in the effects list, the name of the effect. And if we see that, then it's true. Oh, and Little Redhead points out that I co-opt her Twitter to tweet when I am going to be streaming later that day. Normally I try to give more heads up time than it did today. It was about half an hour. Normally it's going to be a couple hours in advance, but I am here every Tuesday, except if something weird happens. So here we are. All right, now whenever we make a change in one of these language files, and this is a new method or new to me method of doing language files where you don't have all the languages in one file and then discriminate while your plugin is running. You instead just have 3 separate language files and you only load the one that you need. And so whenever we make a change, we're going to need to replicate that to the other 2 files. So we have an addition to French and German. Now, of course, this is not correct. The German term for melodic interlude is almost certainly not melodic interlude, but having an entry here is the important thing. Otherwise, if you run this into German, the lookup won't just fail, it'll crash, and that's not good. I shouldn't say crash. The plugin will produce an error in LOTRO and stop working for that call. And then the next time something happens, it'll try again, it'll produce an error. That's not great. All right, so we have added that to the language files. I'm going to advance my notes here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope. You can close that. You can stop beeping at me, but you're not going to, are you? You're going to keep beeping. I don't need to have you ask me every time. This program's aggressive. Are you sure you don't want to save those changes? No, I don't want to save those changes. I'm good. Thank you. Stop it. I don't know if that's even coming across, but I can hear it. Ding. Okay, so we have a name to look for. We observed this melodic interlude. That is the effect we're looking for, but it's going to be annoying to keep having to look for that. So let's go ahead and open up our options window. And that's the code. And let me do that in game first. Remember, when you go to a plugin manager, some plugins will provide, oh, gotta load it first. Some plugins will provide an optional options panel. Let me move some of these windows out of the way. And MinstrelBuffs is one of them. By default, is it visible in combat or not? Only visible when you're in combat or combat adjacent situations. What's the look and feel of it? Are you using the soliloquy tracker? And are you not using it when serious business is active? Cool, all these base options. But let's go ahead and, first of all, in the options window, and I've got a lot of stuff open here. Let's go ahead and close some of that. A to-do file. Yes. Let's go ahead and keep the to-do file open, but let's come on in here and admire how strongly that Dutch light is hitting my screen. Oh, you can't see that. My screen is nicely illuminated. Maybe too much. It's all good. Okay, so in the options window, there is a show debug options variable. And at the top of the options window, it is currently set to false. We're going to go ahead and set that to true. And by adding a line instead of changing a line, it's a little easier for me to just delete that line later than to remember, what am I changing that line to? That's just a main thing. Either one works fine. And then we're probably going to need to make this thing bigger. We can already see that text is running against the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that here. We have a set size of 400. I'll just bump it up to 500, maybe 600 while we're thinking about it. Give us plenty of space. Oh, of course. We have, if show debug controls, make it bigger. That's really what we want. We don't want that to be big unless debug controls. All right, let's go ahead and reload that for a moment. And here we can see we have, oh, neat, curtains being pulled. That's so much better. Here we can see we have some debug options already for entering combat, leaving combat, clearing ballads. Great. Let's go ahead and add a couple more for seeing melodic interlude turn on and then turn off. Okay, so in here, and this is the part of the drawing where we're only doing it if show debug options. Rather than to do, fix the line break, not being visible 100% in the options window. Absolutely. I mean, it's fine on my machine now. No, it's a good point. Normally when I see a thing, I throw it in here. All right. Options panel isn't quite tall enough by default. There we go. Now I can forget about it. Thanks, Frithen. All right, 7 says, I'm afraid I have not the tweet skills. Yeah, me neither. I know enough to compose a tweet and send it into the void, and that's about it. I mean, if people find that useful, that's great. I don't mind doing it, but I don't really understand Twitter. Okay, cool. So we've got the ability to add stuff in. What are we going to want? We want, naming things is hard. Self.debug detect melodic interlude. Start. Yeah, sure. Turbine dot, and this is going to be probably a button. that makes sense. Stop beeping at me. By making a LOTRO button, whoa! Did it finally work? Oh my goodness. Wait, come back. How do I... No! Lunar water! How do I make the autocomplete? Oh, I don't know. I never get it to work like that, and then finally it worked. Oh well. There is a feature of the Lua extension, and I should have mentioned, I'm using Visual Studio Code right now. It's a free... I should mention that I'm having the wrong thing visible. There we go. Cool. I should mention that I'm using Visual Studio Code to edit plugins right now. I was using just a basic text editor, Sublime Text. That is totally fine. And you can go very far with just a text editor. I would recommend something better than Notepad. Something like Sublime Text or Notepad++ or any of these other things that are better than just Notepad. I would definitely recommend. But Visual Studio Code is free, and the extensions include the newly created LOTRO API by Lunar Water, and then that also uses the Lua extension to understand and parse Lua itself. And these are very handy because then you can come in and when I have a issue with my code, oftentimes it'll catch it before it really gets to be a problem. Okay, speaking of which, I'm wondering if I do Turbine UI LOTRO. I wonder. It is confusing to me that right now the plugin is extension is not behaving well for the turbine stuff, and I would like it to. It's working fine on a different set of plugins, and it confuses me. But that's fine. We're gonna make a button. Debug detect melodic interlude start. It's a button, so we want to always remember to set a parent to make sure the thing is visible. Now in this case, we're just going to set it to something called parent. That is a control being passed to place controls. And that is the thing that is being hosted in the options window. Perfect. So we are parented with something that is going to be displayed. We can be displayed ourselves. Self.debug. I'm going to copy that name so it's easier to type. We're going to go ahead and set the position. And what are we doing here? Setting position looks like we're indenting by 20. And we can just set it to be Y. Y just keeps on incrementing down as we complete a row. Self.that. We're going to go ahead and set size. We're going to set the size to 200. We'll see if that's big enough. And let's see. We of course need to set the text. And this is a debug text. I don't have to worry about it being translated to multiple languages. It's really just for me. So start melodic interlude. Great. All right. Finally, we just need a callback. So the .click callback. And that's going to be an anonymous function with 2 parameters, sender and args. These are often not used, but it is part of the sort of the formal signature. And I come from a more formal language background, so to me it's a little weird to declare a function that doesn't actually match the parameters that are being sent. It feels a little weird to me. It's fine for Lua. I don't think it causes any problems. And as always, just to make sure that I've hooked up my events correctly, I'm going to go ahead and just write out turbine.shell.writeLine to confirm that I have done the thing that I think I have. All right. And as is often the case, we're going to see a lot of duplicate between this and the next button. And when that happens, oftentimes I'll just copy that code into a Sublime Text and just change the names. So here, debug detect melodic interlude start. We're going to go ahead and change this to stop, and then stop. Find replace might have been even better there. And we're just going to move it back out of Sublime Text and into Visual Studio Code. Now we have a start and a stop button. All right, let's take a look at what that looks like in game. We're going to go back to game here. unload all and load. And in the options window, we can see start melodic interlude produces start in the output, and stop produces stop. So everything is good. Our event handlers are hooked up correctly, and we're good to go. But we don't have a thing for these to go to yet. So now we can replicate the effect. Where are we going to put the effect? No, stop beeping. Okay. My notes. Yes. Okay. My notes tell me that in the main.lua, we were working on war speech. And what we were doing was we did a partial update to the direction I want to take this plugin, which is instead of every time an effect is added or removed, rescan all the effects, just consume the effects as they're being added and removed. Up, added, up, removed, up, added, up, removed. Don't recalculate everything every single time. It's an exciting frontier. And so we are doing that here, and then after we check for war speech and do the correct behavior, then we just go ahead and do that old thing also. So all parts of the plugin still do what they were doing, but war speech is handled separately. And same thing with effect removed. We check for war speech, and whether or not that was war speech, we go ahead and recalculate the whole display. So this lets us add new features that are hopefully a little bit more respectful of the processor time without breaking all the existing stuff. All right, but that means we can go ahead and just add an else if branch. If it's valid war speech, else if self, oh, we don't have a function yet. All right, hold that thought. Is valid war speech. Now this is a very easy function. All it does is say, if I use the effect name to find an entry in this table, is there an entry in that table? Or is it nil? So it's either going to be true, the value in the table, or nil, and that means we're going to be able to use that effectively like a Boolean. True is always true, and nil equates to false. Now, this might be more explicitly correct to say is not equal to nil. That is, if there's a value there at all, then go ahead. But the benefit of this is that if you ever had a false in there or any other value, then you can transparently return that. So that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and do another MinstrelBuff main is valid melodic interlude effect. Great. And we're getting an effect name, not an effect itself, just the name. And we're going to go ahead and return if valid melodic interlude names effect name. That's all. And we're just sort of replicating what we were doing before. So now that we have a function that we can call else if self is valid melodic interlude effect name, then self.buff window, I don't know, stuff and things. So buff window. Buff window is the thing in the game which is controlling what's going on here. And so we're doing the parsing in main. Not a fan of that, but that's okay. We're doing the parsing in main, so we want to dispatch to the window that says, hey, your melodic interlude has started. So let's go ahead and put a pin in this, pull up buff window, and figure out where, there we go. So we have some war speech functionality. Let's go ahead and do something similar. This will be melodic interlude functions. And that's just a note to me that I want to collect these in a different location later. Don't worry about that right now, though. Okay, so we're going to do some very similar stuff. But there's only 0 or 1 melodic interludes so far. So instead of melodic interlude instead of saying added, I think I just want to say start. If we see it coming in, it started. If we see it leaving, it stopped. If we see another one come in, like if two of those proc right away, I think we see the time reset. That is a normal thing to happen with minstrels. So we're going to go with the on-off way of looking at things. And if that's the case, then we should have a buff window melodic interlude stop. Awesome. And at this point, I don't know what we're going to do here, but this is a great place to do it. So let's go back to main and unpin that. Now we have a thing to call here. This triple question mark is not actually valid Lua code. So we're going to go ahead and stop being distracted by that window behind me. There we go. All right, so buff window, melodic what was it called? Melodic interlude start. There we go. And we can do the same thing down here. Else if self is valid melodic interlude effect name, then self.buff window, same thing, melodic interlude stop. And that is probably our hook in to what's going on from the options window, is we can just go ahead and call these functions ourselves. Melodic interlude start, melodic interlude stop. Okay. So, buff window. How do we get to buff window? Well, main has a buff window. So let's start by assuming we can get to main. Not sure. So we're going to go ahead and say self is wrong here. This needs to be something that links to the main window. But we know, or have seen, at the bottom of main is a global value for MB main. That is a MinstrelBuff main. So we can say MB main dot buff window. And we can do the same thing with the stop. Okay, so we have buttons. Those buttons are going to connect up with the buff window. And so here's a great place, turbine.shell.writeline. And we're just going to go ahead and confirm that our test button is hooked up and buff window now can tell that melodic interlude is starting or stopping. All right, let's give that a try. Let me just unload and reload the plugin. And if I hit start, excellent. We see melodic interlude start and stop, melodic interlude start. Excellent. So right now, our options window, if we're in debug mode, can have us trigger this rare thing, which is good because at 10% proc on some of your skills, it can be a little while before it happens. Awesome. Okay, so we have some starting and stopping functions. Huh. My cohort got defeated. What are you doing? Oh, Shadowed Refuge. Nice. Shadowed Refuge is a great way to discover gravity in the game, but it does come with some problems. All right, so I had a thought here on what the buff window is going to do. Now, this is a healing ability, right? It unlocks healing for what is otherwise a damage only, well, self-heal only character. I can heal myself just fine with my few healing skills, but none of them affect others. And so my first thought was changing the UI in MinstrelBuffs is kind of annoying because there are a bunch of different possible UIs. Let me move my chat window over here a bit. So this is one of like 10 different UIs. And so I don't want to get too complicated with adding stuff before I get a chance to play around with it, see how it works. And so my first thought was just, what if we just turn the background green? What happens then? Because green is the color of healing. Bam. So in this melodic interlude start, the first thing I think we should try is changing the color of something, but I don't remember what that would look like. Let's pop back up to the start function, which kind of draws everything. And we can see we have a self.window. So self.window equals a turbine.ui.window. Brathan says, most of them are only an optical change. What about reducing them to make the future features easier? Oh, sorry, a visual change. Yeah, optical makes sense there. What about reducing them to make the future features easier? Do you mean reducing how many of these themes are available? It's an interesting idea. I feel like for every theme, there's got to be like at least one person who thinks it's a good theme, right? Otherwise, why would it be here? But I gotta say, I just 99% of the time I like a standard, and as we've mentioned here before, a standard that can just kind of grow for those times when you have more than 3 anthems. I'm done. The rest of these I just don't need. But I would feel bad making a feature that didn't at least work in some way with those other ones. See, Chromite says, I like the plain one without all the frills. I'm assuming that means the standard no window, just square boxes. Or at least rectangular boxes, as the case may be. Yeah, exactly. Or the no window single line. Oh, that's an interesting coloration. Is that intentional? Yeah, anyway. What is going on here? Yeah, so for me, I like this window is basic, but it's just got a nice little touch to it, right? Like I like the little curly bit on the end. I'm a sucker for that little frill. So my first thought was, let's make something that works on any of them and see what happens. So we have a self.window, and everything is in the self.window. So let's go ahead and just change it, right? I've hit the wrong key combination. Oh, that's exciting. I opened up a brand new Visual Studio Code. I was trying to paste. Whoops. And we're going to go ahead and let's set the back color naively. Now, I think this will not work properly because backgrounds and back colors don't, by default, interplay. But we're going to start with this. Turbine.ui.color.green, I think I said. Let's give that a shot. And we're going to need the opposite when the interlude stops. So the opposite of a color is kind of no color, so we'll just set that to nil. And let's see what chaos this causes. All right, so we come on in here, we say start. Sweet, okay, that is very noticeable. Points for noticeability. I have some notes. But the goodness is stopping it, clearing that color by setting it to nil, makes it work. Cool, okay. So now's a good time for me to revisit the documentation, because I recall in the back of my head somewhere there's a way to make this work nicely. So we'll come into the API documentation. A window is at its heart a control. So let's see if controls got something about color. So we have right off the bat, when we search for color, we see a promising thing, color blend mode. Now, basics, I have a very basic knowledge of graphics, but I know that blending is probably what we want. We want a mix of the color and the image. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put a pin in it, the set back color mode. What else do we have? That's it. Okay, the rest of it's all over there. So what do we see with set set color back color blend mode? Sets blend mode applied to background color to one of the values specified in blend mode. All right, fair enough. Blend mode overlays the source over the destination, using the source alpha to interpolate between the source of destination colors. I mean, that sounds plausible. But what else do we have? Performs a blend between a new color determined by applying the hue and saturation of the source and color destination. That sounds even better. Let's try this color set of blending. Well, actually, we can try them all. I don't know. I've got a little bit of time today. Let's go ahead and set the blend mode first, just in case that matters. We're going to go ahead and set back color blend mode. And we're going to set that to turbine.ui.blend mode. And let's try an alpha blend just to see what happens. I don't think it is correct. So, nope, that didn't work. It's still wrong. What was the next one? We have color. Oh, I kind of want to see grayscale, though. That sounds cool. All right. Coming back in. Start. Ooh. That's not right at all. But it's doing a fascinating thing with the blue. Huh. All right. Next, we have multiply. That can't be right. Oh. Ooh. I mean, it's wrong, but it's wrong in such an interesting way. Look at that. Huh. Normal. Wrong. Normal. Wrong. Okay. None, and then normal. There's also overlay screen undefined. All right, let's pop back to color. We're doing a color thing here. Let's just run on the assumption that maybe color works. I know something will. Okay, that's kind of what I had in mind. I just want the whole thing to go green, and that looks pretty good. Looks like the inside of the frog. I'm not sure. I'm hoping you mean the previous one. I kind of like the look of this one. But the neat thing is, if this isn't quite right, we do have the ability to come in and say, you know what, green might not be right, but what about like bright green? I don't know. Do we have other? Ah, man, I need to get this working. This extension. But I have the other documentation has the complete list. So this is on the LOTRO interface site. Yeah, okay, you're too slow. Excellent. All right, let's search for color, and then in here, there's just all of the predefined ones are listed here. So if I search for green, is there a light green? There is a light green. Awesome. Let's just check this out, see if it's better. Start. That doesn't look any different. Hang on. Let's get a snip of that. Sure. Okay, so that's what it was. I'm going to pull it aside for a moment. And then green. I mean, it's always possible I didn't save properly. Okay, that's... By later, it just means, like, less, apparently. Not a fan. Okay. I guess the question then is, like, is there a dark green? Or, what is color? Yeah, I don't think I'm going in the right direction here. All right, we'll just do green. Yes, rather than it's lighter green. All right, cool. Okay, I think if this plugin does this, I'm going to notice it and be able to go like, okay, green, I can heal. And I think that if it's one of the other ones, it is inherently going to work. Like Chromite said that like the no window standard theme, I think it was this one. But even this one, you can see the effect. I don't know, Chromite, what do you think? Is that too subtle? Would you notice it? Would you hate it? Should this be an option? Color is an illusion, man, says Little Redhead. Absolutely. My brain is working overtime to make me think I see things, man. All right, new water has been retrieved. Oh, wow, with the fixed anthems, all the fixed anthems that aren't already there go green. Well, that's just wonky. Something to it. Okay, so back to this. That's the green it will go to, and then it'll go back to its normal blue topped self. So I'm pretty happy with being able to detect it like that. No, don't do that. Okay, and then we have no more need for these right lines because I'm very happy that that is happening. Now I will say, just in case, we might want to set the background blend mode back. Rather than says, you created night vision LOTRO. Oh man, that'd be cool. Oh, that'd be fun if you had a plugin that could, yeah, I don't know. Actually, you could have a plugin that makes everything harder to see. You just draw a control over it and just put the opacity up a little bit. Everything just gets a little bit darker. Let's go ahead and put this back to normal. I'm going to assume that's where it came from. I could do the heavy lifting and check, but I'm going to assume that's where that came from. So we're resetting the color blend and the back color back to what they presumably were when we started. Okay. Dun, 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 and everything looks good. So that's kind of the basic thing, right? We could try to verify that it works. Here. Let me go ahead and move these up here. I'm going to try very hard not to hit escape. Let's say it says chili, but I don't know what that is in context to. Okay. I wasn't actually paying attention. Did I get a green yet? Sorry. I was glancing at chat. Alright, let's make this happen. And we can see our war speech timers are ticking on down there. So a reminder that ballads are good. You want ballads. But I also would like this to proc. I should be looking at my effect list also. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it automatically detected that Melodic Interlude is live. What I really want to see is it going off. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Well, that's kind of the basics of what I wanted, right? Let's venture on back to our to-do file. Check freedom. Done. Let's go ahead and add a note. So I had an idea of opening up a new window with the skills that it unlocked, but new windows are hard, and this was pretty easy. But I do want to add a timer that counts down from 10. So let's think about timers. Now, the easiest thing to do is not have a timer at all. The second thing is, if we're going to have a timer, the question is where. And I kind of blew the space in the middle on the war speech, which I stand by it. But it means that space is not available. The space at the bottom I've already consumed for an out of combat timer. So how about the top? We've got a tiny strip there. Let's think about that. Now my concern is that what does the top mean for this? I don't know. Well, we'll have to put something out there first and then try it out with the other themes. So a timer. We already have the ability to do timers. Let's see. Where would we put this? Ding. All right, we have timer controls, and we have them. We are already making some here in basically the constructor. It's a function called start. I'm not a fan of that, but it's building all the UI. So we are talking about something that's conceptually going to be at the top of the window. Let's go ahead and put it code-wise up at the top as well. And when we're thinking about how do we make this thing, we can actually just go kind of lift how this one is made and see if that works for us. Now, of course, we don't want it to be called war speech time displays with an index of I. So let's go ahead and just do a multi-select here, and we're going to call it Melodic Interlude time display. And this is a timer control, and let's run from there. Okay, so it is a timer control. We're going to set parent. Always parent your windows or your controls. We're going to set its position. The position, I'm going to be lazy and just say, we're just going to start in the upper left, see what happens. Set visible false, that's good. The size, let's just be lazy and just make it the whole width of the thing. It's going to be the whole thing. Maybe a little bit less tall, but we can just do theme. Oh, interesting. It looks like looks like we had an edit that needed to be undone. This set size should have been deleted. That was an extra one from when we were doing some testing. Okay, so we have, let's just start with some hard-coded things. Fairthon says, what about adding a new small icon with the same countdown style / timer as in the SOS tracker? Just like a visual help with all those countdowns. It's not a bad idea. Like, this is getting increasingly bonkers as far as a helpful UI goes, right? Like, oh, we've got a timer. That makes sense. Oh, we've got 3 more small timers. Oh, we've got another timer. That only happens every once in a while. I'm not saying this is a good design. It's probably not a finished design. But it's a start, you know. How big's the window? Theme.window width. That sounds great. Let's make it that big. Duration. We know this thing lasts for 10 seconds. In fact, we can just comment that. Melodic Interlude always lasts 10 seconds. Great. And setting the background color. Well, we know it's a healing thing. And we want it to be visible, so how about dark green? And then we just need code that activates it and deactivates it. Now, the function where we just were was round line 400. There we go. Okay, so in here, we just need to go ahead and start that timer up. And so timers work by you giving it a game time for now, and it uses the duration to decide when it's done. So local game time equals turbine.engine.get game time. And then we are going to use that, self.melodic interlude time display. We're going to set the start time and make it visible because it was invisible. Set visible. No, not set visibility, set visible. That is going to be a problem. And then we just need to do kind of the opposite for the stop. So we can go ahead and say set start time 0, and then set visible to false. In fact, timer, there might actually be a stop function. Stop. Start time. Set start time. Maybe not. Oh, there's a pause. Nope, okay. So we're going to set the start time to 0. We're going to set the visibility to false. End of story. Okay, so what would that look like? Start. Not a fan. Those green on top of green was the wrong choice. Or at least dark green. What about light green? Also, it is definitely not as wide as I was thinking. What's going on there? Okay, so we have a set size. Oh, right, of course. This is a gotcha with the timer control that comes with MinstrelBuffs, and I'm not a big fan. You need to call set timer size. If you call just set size, it's not correct. Okay, so start. Oh, that's visible. Huh. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, other than a discoverability or understandability from new people. But for me, it's not the worst thing in the world. Huh. And then if it goes away, boop, and then start. Huh. I say. I totally agree. It's not the most discoverable thing. I think, Farathan, that you're right, that popping up an adjacent window that maybe even has some text like heal your friends or something, but more importantly, has the things that we know work. So for instance, the text calls out explicitly raise the spirit and Chord of the Salvation work. What's really funny, in a nitpicky kind of way, is that Freedom says it allows for use of raise the spirit. But explicitly, if you're in dissonance stance, you have no ability called raise the spirit. You have raise my spirit. And you don't have Chord of Salvation, you have Chord of my salvation. And so, I mean, it's fine. Whatever. I have seen it work. It's fine. But, you know, what you doing there? What are you saying? Anyway, so I haven't tried these other skills. I'm curious, would Bolster My Courage work? Oh, you know, I didn't add a way to track which skill triggered the thing. Do I have a way to do that? What would it look like? Well, all my combat stuff was me just auto-attacking. Let's bring that target dummy back up. Well, what if I just spit out or record each combat thing in a temporary variable and just spit out what happened right before we get the effect and see if that gives us anything in any context here. Rathan says it's not easy to fill this new UI. I know, especially, I mean, so this is the double-edged sword of this nice little prepackaged UI with its little flare thing, is I don't have the original file for that. And so I can't easily make it bigger or change it. And that makes me sad because I would like to have a larger version of this with more places for timers and stuff. And nope. So now it is tempting to make it a little bit taller. I have the limited ability to make it taller and make it look consistent, and then add these little timer spots in for the war speech, so there's at least a spot that's being filled in. I could do that. But can I do that on 10 different themes? No. Yeah, perhaps new ideas come if I progress. Absolutely. So let's come on in. Do we have a chat monitor? I don't know. But it'll probably be in the main.lua if we do. Chat received. I don't think we do. Okay, let's go ahead and do that so we can monitor the combat log. And in that case, my goodness, how do we do that? You know, when I draw a blank on something like this, sometimes it's easiest just to go to another plugin that already does it. So let's go ahead and pop open Documents. Let's come into the plugins, Cube plugins, it's me. And then in the Hunter of the Decoy, we have a chat received. No? Where are you? There we go. Turbine.chat.received equals a function. Neat. That is exactly what I want. Oh, Fairland says, I've got an idea for the window. I'll send you the next day. Sadly, I've got to go to bed now. Must get up early tomorrow. Not a problem. Thanks so much for popping in and having thoughts. I would love to see what you have on the window. I'm not really a UI kind of person, so any help would be definitely appreciated. Let's go ahead and copy this chat type. You stick to the existing one. That's awesome. I'm a fan, as I said. I could be convinced of something new, but you know, change is scary. Let's go ahead and in this main window, and this is just a temporary thing, so maybe I'll just come on down to the bottom here and say turbine.chat.received equals function. I'm not worried about death, and I'm not worried about the enemies in combat. I'm only interested in my stuff. And so we're going to go ahead and say last combat received equals nothing. So if args is chat type equals player combat, then last combat received equals args dot message. That's it. And then last combat received, we can go ahead and say, what was this? Melodic Interlude. Cool. If it's a melodic interlude that's coming in, then turbine.shell.writeLine melodic interlude happened after, and just concatenate that in. And let's see what happens when we do that. Now we're specifically, again, looking for this window to go green. And how's all my calls and cries, so gotta wait for some of them to cool down here. But ballads do reduce the cooldowns of calls and cries by 1 second, so keep an eye out for that. Oh, cooldowns. Why do you make me sad? Come on. Alright. Oh, I waited so long the training dummy finally despawned. Okay. Okay, we have less than an hour here before Eldoleth comes on for an anniversary celebration with pet giveaways, titles, and points. So Elda would definitely love to give some stuff away. So stick around after I depart. But that also means I have 50 minutes to figure out what I'm doing. All right, I'm out of combat, so I can go ahead and pull out the training dummy again. Now, some people in World Chat over here on Treebeard did not realize that you can skill up your class deeds, the ones you get through the first 50 levels or so. You can skill those up with a training dummy of an appropriate level. So just like normal creatures, it can't be too low level for you. And unfortunately, the training dummies in Breetown always come out to, I don't know, something like level 15. But the DPS target dummy that is a housing decoration out of the training dummy stand is always the level of the person that summons it. So, which can be funny if a level 60 person summons it and then a level 2 person goes and fights it. Oh, there we go. Okay, and we see that the Melodic Interlude went away and the color green went away. And Melodic Interlude happened after a Call of Arome. I'm just going to document this somewhere. All right. It has valid Melodic Interlude effect. We're just going to go ahead and document this in comments. I might leave that running over the next week or so, and just every time I see a new one, I'll go ahead and report it, because I'm curious to document all the possible ones. Is it just the 3 that we were talking about before? Hey! Oh no! I did a melee attack. I did a melee attack, and it, right after I did whatever, Dissonant Piercing Cry, I think. No. Where was it? Okay, maybe I need a new tab. And that tab is just Combat Player. Be nice if I spelled that right. I didn't think about the delay between you proccing it and it coming through, and so I got the wrong event there. Now, all way to fix that is don't stand in melee range of the thing that you're trying to trigger this on. That's a comment to me, not to you. And now my combat log is going to be a lot lighter, especially my combat player log. I wonder if Dissonant Strike can do it, though. Didn't that time. every once in a while, every few minutes, the DPS target enemy kind of resets, and you can't attack it for a second. And that's kind of disorienting the first time that happens. It's like, what happened? It's funny, I said I thought it was going to happen a lot, but maybe I was a little optimistic. It knows I'm watching is the problem. This is the watched pot boiling kind of problem. I need to just run halls of crafting or something and just not pay attention to it. Wouldn't that be funny if you need to be in melee combat to trigger it? Man, testing things is just the worst. This is why I try not to test things. Huh. Okay. Well, either my plugin has stopped detecting things, which would be a bummer, or it's just not procking right now. And I'm using the verb procking to indicate a random chance thing that may happen as the result of an attack or an action or something. A term which apparently I inherited from World of Warcraft, but may be older than that. I think it is. I think it dates back to moos and mushes. But if you wondering why I keep using PROC as a verb, that's why. It's just in my head as the thing that describes a percentage chance thing that can happen happened. Is it procced? Your mileage may vary on how useful a term that is, but I think it is useful to have such a term. I just don't know if it's very universal. And of course, a word that other people don't know is not a very helpful word. Two of them in a row, and now it's just not gonna do it for me. Not enough power. Oh, my goodness, that's embarrassing. So, other thing that I sometimes try to do is duck into a house to get rid of combat. It doesn't really help, but I like to think that it does. Like, oh, hey, I am out of combat. Awesome. All right. Well, my power ran out. Obviously, that means I need more food to attack this DPS target number. Actually, a thing that is of interest to me is it the use of the ability or is it the hit of the ability? Because if you're hitting with an AoE, you're hitting a bunch of times, and is it the hit on the target that can trigger the proc? Because it makes me wonder. Oh, Weird Will has said, many thanks for that definition. I'd been meaning to ask somebody just that. Yeah, I checked it up one day on like an MMO encyclopedia kind of thing, or a history of words kind of thing, and the meaning more or less matched with my conceptual model of it, which was lovely to hear. It's always one of those things like, oh, that's what that word means? But it matched up pretty well, and it's just one of those things where, yeah, it's a useful, helpful word, but when you say the word proc, it just sounds like you're making random noises with your mouth until the other person knows what you're talking about. And you can kind of get it from context, maybe, like, if someone's like, oh, that skill didn't proc, you're like, okay, I can connect a few pieces together, but yeah, it's still kind of fuzzy. Okay, if I was to do something crazy, let's pop into halls of, oh, can't do it from the neighborhood. All right. I just want you to do this. No, it's fine. So I've got the output. It's not perfect. Oh, you know what would be useful is to just not include the word melee attack. Why didn't I think of this? I was too busy just trying to power through. So if string.find, and we're looking for args.message, and we're looking for melee attack. So, and we're looking for not that. Then end. That'll figure that out. Oh, awesome. Chromate was AFK when I talked about it. I was giving the not very clear explanation that a proc is when a percentage chance thing from a weapon or effect can happen, does happen. So there's a 10% chance that this can happen, and when it does happen, it has procced. That is my definition of that. And yeah, you're confirming that it dates back to the special process from MUDs, which was the thing attached onto an item, say, that did the thing. And so the terminology for how the thing was implemented just becoming the name for the thing happening. Procedure, thank you. So I think it's a neat little bit of history. Oh, yay! Awesome. No. Did my string.find not work? A problem with just doing a string.find is I'm not great with string.find. Let's go consult some better documentation. Lua string.find. Pattern matching functions. String.find. Great. Give me an example. Returns the position where it's found, or nil if it could not find it. Awesome. So if string.find is not equal to nil, then do that. Did I forget to unload and reload? That would be funny. All right, let me think about where would be a good place to go. I mean, Halls of Crafting comes to mind because I've been thinking about it a lot recently. So yeah, sure, let's do that. Let's go ahead and travel to Bree. So I was curious, Chromate, I was musing, if you're still here, on whether this 10% is per me activating a skill, or if it's an area effect skill, if it's 10% chance per it landing on an enemy. In which case, Cry of the Wizards can hit 8 targets. Is that 8 chances of a 10% thing happening? Oh, I'm not the fellowship leader. My goodness. I wonder if someone can do something about that. It just says 10% chance for the thing to allow, but it's not saying more than that, and that's fine. Chromate thinks just using the skill, not hitting. Very possible. I guess it will have an answer if this procs almost immediately after I do an area effect thing. Oh, I've got some food, but if I'm actually going to be in here and not die on stream, I'm going to go ahead and buff up with some scrolls and a hope token. Okay. Also, crafting, if you're not familiar, is a very popular source of heritage runes right now for the Legendary Items Reward Track Season 2, which has people's attention because every 25 spaces on the track, you get something that's not legendary item related. So, for instance, the Banner of Gil-galad at 25, the Dancing Hobbit, Hobbit Dance 4, I believe it is, or Dance Hobbit 4, at 50. At 75, I haven't picked it up yet, but it's the Azog's Sword cosmetic, and then of course at 100, which everyone wants, the Mountaineering Donkey, or at least you want it if you like cosmetic pets that are rare. It is not necessarily coming back anytime soon to the reward track, although it could come back at a later date. So now is the time to get to 100 if you so desire. I'm up to about 70 with some runs of Halls of Crafting. As long as you've got at least 2 of you, it's a pretty easy place to find them. Since I don't have 2 of me, we'll see. All right, well, it is not proccing any more than I would have was experiencing. And that backs up Chromite's instinct. Oh, it did proc once, though. Backs up Chromite's instinct that it's probably not a per hit, but it's a per attack. Because otherwise, there's no way it would have taken that long with that many enemies. Sorry if that's making anyone a little bit dizzy. I find the best way to not be hit by the augurs is to run away from them. Okay, but we got 2 of them. Why? What am I doing wrong with this? Oh, of course, I did reverse it. It should be equal to 0. Why? Okay, so unload that plugin or reload that plugin. Let's come back in. And yes, so I was only matching, I was always matching the melee. Let's try not matching the melee. We have another group here. I'm just going to pre-buff with my anthems. I really love the group-wide stun that we have with Call of Roman. With Call of the Second Age now. It's just delightful. I could use that all day, except for the cooldown and their temporary immunity to status effects. But besides that, I would use it all day. Later on in Halls of Crafting, there's a thing where you pull a lever and enemies just spawn at the top and they run at the person who pulled the lever. And it's just so fun to just nope, everyone's stunned for a few seconds. And that gives the tank time enough to pick them up if there was any hesitancy. All right, so we have... What the heck is Harsh Echoes? No! This is going to be harder than I thought. I was hoping that just simply scraping the combat log and saying this thing is in close proximity to us getting the effect would supply the information. But the problem is, of course, that the thing is, Redline Minstrels tend to drop lots of dots as they're doing things. And so I had a Harsh Echoes fall on the enemy. And of course, that happened to hit just before the effect came. So I don't think that's going to come together. I'll have to find some other way to confirm how this works. Maybe LOTRO Companion can deduce what causes this to proc. Probably not. I don't know. Okay, so that was an interesting experiment. Did not die on stream, so that's a positive. Also, I'm curious. I'm using very similar hardware to what Little Redhead streams on, so I'm kind of curious how smooth or not it is, because we're asking an awful lot of our laptops. So I'm just running up and down this corridor just to see. Okay, I'm seeing some stuttering. That's not great, but it could be worse. Okay, so leaving the Halls of Crafting aside, I think we can say that at least Little is just getting more and more convinced that she wants a new computer. Yeah, fair enough. So we have a UI. We have a timer that is objectively terrible, but subjectively does tell me the information I need for right now, which is how long is the thing going to stay green. Boop. But that does require the in-game to go ahead and come back and say, nope, it's done. Oh, hey. So, what else? What else? A thing I was curious about is how bad does this look in each of the styles? That's not great, but it works. Oh, interesting. So they position the controls in the same place, but they just don't have the background. Oh, that makes it work. I mean, as much as it is working. Can I make this taller? Oh, nice. Okay, so how is that? Oh, that is weird. Why is the timer over there? That's 0, 0 of something. Is all of this in negative coordinates? I don't know how that's working. But I also don't use that, so... Oh, and that does a very similar thing. Huh. It's... I was going to say, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's pretty bad. But it's functional. It's technically functional. Oh, that's just bonkers. Okay, I think it's time to think about some new ideas for how to display that UI. Because this will work for testing purposes. But, okay, that was a good try. No, what I need is, instead of, I'm circling back around. So my combat thing was so open, it accepted a bunch of things that weren't right. What I need is to check for a specific list of things I do care about, and also hold a chicken. Nice. I'm going to go ahead and return back to housing. Because what I want to do is assemble a list of these skills that I think are probable, and only check for those and record what was the last thing there. And then I think a whitelist or what's the difference? Whitelist or blacklist? Yeah, I think a whitelist here of only the skills that I want to allow is the right way to go, because there's so many little effects that pop or proc when you're doing skills, little dots that linger, and that's not helpful for this. Oh, apparently we have a new kin member over on Treebeard. I wonder if they want a house. There's one available in the neighborhood, I think. Okay. So, before I activate this training dummy stand... Okay, I'll activate it. What I want to see is, are we seeing just the name of the effect? So, alright, Timeless Echoes of Battle. Great. Why am I recording it in Sublime Text? I'm trying to be recording it here. Okay. Tracked skills equals, and we're just going to make a table here. Timeless Echo Battle equals true. And it's going to be the same thing. If we find the thing in here, or something. Something like that. All right, what else? We have Call to Fate. Excellent. I'm just copying it out of the combat log, just in case there's a funny spelling. Every once in a while, you'll see a capital letter sneak in to the combat log, but it's not in the tooltip, or vice versa. And if you're doing exact matching, that can be killer. So if you're looking for something in the combat log, if you can, copy it from the combat log. Just copy paste it. And that'll be your best bet for matching without a weirdness sneaking in. All right, so it's just a cry. Oops. Let's go ahead and do a call of arome, and this is a great one to copy. What would that umlaut or diaresis on the E there? I'm going to call it an umlaut. All right, cry of the Valor. Cry of the Valor. He's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's going to find out which of these things triggers the cool effect. All right, Cry of the Wizards, and finally, of course, Call of the Second Age. Which, if Chromite's right, that would suggest that you don't need to hit anyone with your Call of the Second Age for it to proc, which would be very exciting actually, because sometimes when we're running through instances, I'll use it just for the speed buff that it gives. Skirmishes especially, when we're running around and the Fence of the Deep Way, and we've finished off at the south end, and now it's time to go back to the center or go to the north end. It's like, oh, okay, let's have that 10% run speed for everyone in the Fellowship. And if that could also trigger the ability to heal our tank, even better. Okay, what else? What might be a call or a cry? Invocation of Elbreth? Doesn't seem likely. Song of Distraction? No. Heal. Ooh, what's a buff? Spirit of Freedom? No, doesn't say it's anything. What about Improved Cry of the Chorus? What an interesting idea. I mean, it's a cry, so you'd think it would work. Edeleth peeks in. Hello, Edeleth. I have mentioned that you'll be coming on in about 33 minutes with giveaways and cool things. Okay, so we have a list of things that we think can possibly trigger the Melodic Interlude. Now we just need to check each and every chat message to see if it contains this. So, a little helper function might be good. Function, does chat contain a tracked skill? Question marks don't work. That's okay. And we'll just pass in the message. Now, there is a way to iterate through a table, but I don't remember what it is. But I know it exists, so we can just go ahead and type in Lua iterate table. All right, for key value in pairs. Yeah, that sounds good. And since I don't remember exactly how that works, we're actually going to do does that with nil. And instead of doing anything useful, we're just going to print out what we got. So we're going to get turbine.shell.writeLine, and we're going to say key is key, and value is value. And that will let us see, we're just going to run that once when the plugin loads, and that'll let us see what it's looking like to iterate through this table, because I just can't remember. And it looks like an error. Awesome. Attempt to concatenate local value a bool. Oh yes, okay, that makes sense. We expect that value, the thing on the right side of that equal sign, is probably going to be true value. Someone in chat, Piva, says, why didn't they make Lord of the Rings Conquest Online version? I'm not sure what that is. Is that the game that Amazon was going to try to make, but then couldn't? Let me know. Which version is that? Because that's not a version of LOTRO that Lord of the Rings, that I'm familiar with. Lord of the Rings Conquest. Interesting. All right. So when we went ahead and loaded, we saw a bunch of keys equal that, and values equals true. Now we don't actually care about those values, so we can go ahead and say if string.find of message and key, then return true. End. And there we go. We're going to go through each of these tracked skills. We're going to look for that name in the message, and then instead of a string.find here, it'll be if does chat contain tracked skill args.message. Super easy. Aldo says, trying to decide who to play today. Minstrel's Vestral. Guardian is still in Cloven Gap, halfway considering neglected champion. Loretta says, I'll always say Hunter. Viva says, that's a game of Lord of the Rings created by Electronic Arts. Cool. Well, I'm all for various interpretations of Lord of the Rings, but I haven't played that one. And I can't speak for Electronic Arts. I can't even speak for SSG. I'm not an SSG employee. I just happen to like plugins. So here we are. But making a game that was originally not for online suddenly be for online sounds like a really complicated challenge. Like there's things that make a game really fun for solo or local play, and there's things that make a game really fun for online play, and those aren't always the same things. And so I think anytime you're talking about taking a game that was meant for local or solo play and saying, okay, now we're going to make an online version of it, you're kind of making a new game. It's like making a fan fiction of that old game. Like, you're going to see a lot of recognizable things there, but you're kind of starting over to say, okay, how do we write a game that is like that, but is also fun to play online? And maybe you're lucked out and there's not a lot of changes that need to happen, but there's always going to be, it seems like there's always going to be something that changes. And so there's that cost-benefit ratio of any company where they say, if we do the thing, is that going to cost us more money than we can earn? So, you know, there's also a question of licensing. How companies can use a brand like Lord of the Rings is dependent on their license. So if you are a company and you go to, say, Middle-earth Enterprises and say, I would like to make a PlayStation game, Lord of the Rings, and this is what I want it to look like. And they're like, cool, we will license you to do that. And then later you're like, oh man, that did really well. Now I want to turn it into an online game for PCs. Well, your license doesn't say you can do that if your license just says PlayStation as an example platform. So if your license isn't broad enough to begin with, that could be a non-starter because you're not legally allowed to do the thing, even if you wanted to. Even if you thought it made business sense on every other level, you have to go back and make sure that your license covers what you're about to do. It's a whole thing. And so who knows what goes on in the minds of EA, but those are some thoughts that come to mind when you bring the topic up. And Elbaleth says that EA is talking about a free-to-play mobile game called The Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth. Cool. I mean, I don't want to talk because LOTRO has a free-to-play model, but I don't understand free-to-play. It doesn't really compute in my head, but I'm glad it works for the companies that it works for. When I can, I throw a little bit of money towards SSG because I like this game and I would like it to continue to exist. So that's a me thing. And I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. All right, so we now have a chat that will say, did the thing contain track skill, then record it, and hopefully that, now what I haven't thought at all is the temporal nature. Is there any chance the effect can proc before we see the combat string? My goodness, I hope not. Because if that's the case, I'll never be able to convince myself that I know how this is working. Bad argument, awesome. Line 542. Nil. Why on earth would that be nil? Did I do a string.find wrong? Oh! No. String.find first argument is message. Oh, well, I should not use that. If args.message is not nil, and if it contains that, let's try that. Nope. Bad argument to find. Oh, of course. My test call to that is still there. Oh my goodness. That's just not going to work. Not with that rewrite of that code. Okay. So let's pull that training dummy back out. It took us so long to write that function, it went to sleep. Eldeleth looks like a... Oh, hey. Look at a trigger. Call over Ome. Awesome. Of course, I already knew about Call over Ome, but I'll take it. So we're going to come on into, yes, we had a call over Rome right there. That's fine. But the key is over time, I'm hopefully going to be able to see other things that generate. I'm not going to do them all on stream here, But if there's a 10% chance that each time I do cry the Valor, then I would love to see it actually documented as yes, it happened. So I'm gonna maybe leave that running in the background while I continue to look for these. Aha! Another Call of Rome. Is it only Call of Rome? I'm gonna be really disappointed. There's gotta be other things, right? I think this is a suitable UI for testing purposes, but I definitely think we need a pop-up UI that includes the healing skills that work. And that's also going to be a little bit of a testing, is we know Raise the Spirit, Raise My Spirit, and Court of My Salvation should work per the pop-up. Dissonant Piercing Cry, oh my goodness. I mean, if that's true. All right, let's comment that. Okay, Dissonant Piercing Cry. That makes sense. Does it? Wait, does it? War Speech Calls. Is Dissonant Piercing Cry... It's a cry, it's not a call. Suspicious. Carmine asks, could there be an internal cooldown on the Freedom proc that skews things as well? Excellent question. I actually did toss that over to Damien at LOTRO Companion. Yes, LOTRO Companion. And after some digging through the data, it looks like no, there's no internal cooldown that they know of. It's just it being a 10% chance on not all of your skills. I think the cooldown of these skills is getting in the way. And I don't have enough trait points on this server to, I think, really be taking advantage of the chance to reset cries and calls cooldowns. I would like that. I would like 2 more class trait points and then a bunch more after that. But we are getting 2 more class trait points at least with the Siege of Mirkwood expansion that comes to Treebeard in like 3 weeks. I am not prepared. So as far as we know, there's no additional internal cooldown on the Freedom proc, other than the fact that it's tied to a bunch of skills that all have, you know, a multi-second, like 10-second or 30-second cooldowns. And so I think that's the big delay. Okay, another Call of Rome. Okay, devastating though. Oh, okay, so time to capture some thoughts, because I can't go over today, as is sometimes my custom. There's a streamer waiting to come on afterwards. Okay, so Detective. Freedom for heals for others. Done! So we had a 10% chance for war. Yeah. Okay, open a new window. Not done. Done, but badly. Add a timer. Hide window when 10 seconds is up. Okay, so this is still, I think, a really good idea. Open the window, include at least those 2 healing skills, and then it's a lot more obvious, A, that it's there. You can put it right in the middle of the screen, where you might not want to do that with your normal buff window. And B, it'll be easier to explain, rather than there's just this random timer bar that looks like it's not intentional. Oh, neat. Aldolith, if you're going to go streaming on your channel, then I would love to do a /raid from here to there, just in case anyone wants to go ahead and follow there. In 20 minutes, obviously, not yet. Go! Okay, and I didn't see green musical notes, although I'm not running on high graphics right now. Has my camera turned? I'm not running on high graphics right now. And so maybe there's a UI effect around your character, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that because it wasn't useful to me. Awesome. So yeah, definitely a new window with Raise Spirit and Court of Salvation. Yep, I agree with that. Hide window when 10 seconds is up, of course. And add a timer below. Yes. Well, we have 20 minutes. So unless there's any diversions in chat while I drink my water, maybe I'll start on a window. All right, Moobot would like my password. Wait, no. Moobot. Okay, so Okay, Crowite says there's a green music symbol that procs near my head. I mean, isn't good when I'm zoomed out. Like, how's this? I just need to make it happen. Come on, proc. Yeah, my problem is if I'm looking down, I'm usually looking at the MinstrelBuff window. Well, it's happened a number of times on the stream. Worst case, maybe I can find it on the VOD, as they might say. Always when you're watching, man. Always when I'm watching. You're killing me off, still. Yeah, it sounds like this was like, did I break the plugin somehow? You're just saying that plus that. You're saying that plus the poison disease wound fear, bomb effects, etc. are very useful since you aren't looking there. I think. Oh, hey, yes. Okay, I see what you're talking about. Is that what that means? Whoa, cool. Thanks, Crowite. That plus poison disease wound fear, bomb effects, etc. are very useful since you aren't looking there. I'm not sure which effects you're talking about. That sounds more like a Prime Plugins thing. Plus effects from the other things blend in with all that. Might have been okay in the old days when combo was slower and less intense. Ow! You're saying those effects are also procking around her head. Okay. Yeah, probably. Obviously, I don't pay attention to that. If a plugin doesn't say it's worth paying attention to, I don't seem to do that. Huh. All right, cool. Well, thanks for reminding me that that is a thing that exists. I'm sure there are people out there that are just like, oh, the green notes, exactly, now I can heal. And I am sitting here going, oh, that's cool. Good to know. Okay. Maybe a little pop-up that says, hey, silly, go heal people. Yeah, Chromite, you shouldn't even realize the green symbols existed. I'm sure I've seen them. I just didn't necessarily know why they were there. So that's good to know. Thank you. I do like that the UI of the green symbols and the UI of this being green looked like they were in concert, though. I'm gonna say that's a win for my limited aesthetic choices. It looked like it was intentional. So, okay, let's think of a new window. Now, the new window is going to contain 2 skills and a timer. But that's about it. So let's not bother with frills right now. Let's just make a window. Now, we have a buff window. We had a soliloquy tracker window. Let's make a... What is this thing called? Melodic Interlude window. I'm not going to remember what that thing's called. All right, so we're going to make a new file. Melodic Interlude window.lua. Excellent. Now, every plugin, it feels like, seems to do their windows a little bit differently. So instead of just starting from scratch, I'll just come up to buff window and say, hey, buff window, how do you do your thing? And the answer is they're using classes. Awesome. Let's do it. So instead of buff window, we're going to go ahead and do melodic interlude window. And that's going to be a turbine UI window, but not a LOTRO window. So we're not going to get all the fancy stuff around it. And we're going to go ahead and make a constructor for that function, buff window. Now, what I find really interesting, melodic interlude window is that while there's a constructor for buff window, it doesn't seem to do much constructor stuff in there. It's not until you get to the start function that it actually builds all of the UI, which I'm going to tentatively call bonkers. I don't know why it does it that way. It's not how I would think to do UI, but maybe the assumption is... No, I don't know. If you had set this whole thing to off, there's a way to disable this using a console command. If you had said disable the window, then you would not suffer the construction cost of building the window until you re-enabled the window. Yay. I don't know. It seems like you could get the same effect by just creating the buff window object when the thing is on, and if the thing's off, don't create it. And then you could still use a constructor like constructor. I don't know. I'm musing on things I don't understand. Okay, let's go ahead and with our rapidly diminishing time left. All right, so we have to remember to call the parent constructor, as it were, or at least how they do that here in Lua Land, and pass self over to that. Awesome. And then I'm just looking at what's going on over in the buff window. It goes ahead and captures the setting object. Sounds good. And then, do we care about anything else? I actually don't. Actually, I do. Self. Actually, what on earth would a settings be? Settings would just be position. And we can check out the start function for how we do that. So, set position. Oh, that's interesting. Why is buff window a window that contains a window? That feels wrong. I mean, obviously it works. It's fine. I shouldn't say it's wrong. I should say that is unnecessary. It feels like a window that contains a window is an unnecessary level of abstraction. And I don't understand why it is that way. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong per se, but it means there's a little gear in my head turning to say, huh. Okay, set position. So they do some basic checking here. And that's interesting to me. Let's go off to the settings and see how settings are set up. We have a settings main pos x, main pos y, and if the settings table is nil, then we default some stuff. But if settings table is not nil and those values are nil, okay, that's why we're doing that, I guess. I don't know. What's fix up number do? Oh, you're normalized. Excellent. Good stuff. Nope, wrong key. I'm so used to control minus going to the previous location in code in Visual Studio, and here it just zooms in and out on the text size, and it's very disorienting. Here. So the helper function get main pos x has a default value. If the thing it would return is nil, then it returns to 100 instead. So this fix up here, oh, if it's nil, then use 100. Not needed. That was solved at a different point in the code. So we're going to want some new stuff. We can actually kind of use the soliloquy window, or the main window, as an example. So self.settings table, we want to go ahead and say Melodic Interlude, I cannot remember that, equals 300. And the reason I'm doing this staggering is just when you first start the plugin, I don't want all three of the windows necessarily to be on top of each other. I want it to be a little bit more obvious that they are present. That might be a mistake, actually. Maybe it would make more sense if all three were on top of each other and you just drag the 1, 2, and 3 all in one go. That's an interesting question. Okay, so we do want to fix up these numbers. All right, fix up number, and then where else do we see that? All right, so we have some helper functions. So if we go ahead and, again, just copy these out to a empty Sublime text, and anywhere we had soliloquy, I'll go ahead and change that to Melodic Interlude. And that should be pretty reasonable. And we'll just do the whole thing where we scooch it down and to the right to get it out of the way of the other. All right, so that gives us two helper functions, get Melodic Interlude, X and Y. Now we can just double check that these things do match. They don't. What did I do wrong? I didn't include a pos X and pos Y. Or position X and position Y. Okay, so awesome. Now it matches. That was going to be a really annoying bug. Make sure your lookup values match. Okay, so now we have helper functions. Oh, I see. No, okay, I don't see. Weird. Okay. These are defaulting to 200 though. Maybe that's a good idea. Okay, we'll do that. Since the other two are defaulting to 200, this one will also. Okay, so we have some helper functions in settings, which means we can use them here. So we come back in, we can see we have a get main position X, get main position Y. Awesome. Now, sometimes if I'm passing arguments to a function, those arguments get to be really long, like this. Now for me, I find it much easier to read by breaking up the arguments into their own lines, rather than just having one long, endless scroll horizontal line. It takes some getting used to, but that's a me thing. I just can't deal with one huge line, and here it's very easy to see how many arguments are there? 2. How do I know that? There's 2 lines. Now, I would know that anyway because that position only takes 2 arguments, but the point still stands. Sometimes you write a function with a ridiculous number of parameters, and you're like, 7 parameters. How many did I pass? Count the commas. Okay, so we have set position and set size. Now, this is one that we don't need from a settings because we're only going to hold the 2 things and the timer. So self set size equal to, well, that's a good question. We know each of these icons currently is 32 by 32. So if we make it 100 wide, that's more than enough room. And if we make it 50 tall, that's more than enough room. And this is more of a starting point. And then we can narrow down the parameters as we get a window done. And we want to set that background color to something so we know it is working. Oh, and I am running up against time here. Color. And we're just going to set a background of green. Why not? Green all around. Okay. So we are about 5 minutes before the hour. I'm not sure if Elda has started pre-streaming over on her channel, but I'm going to take a drink of water. Well, maybe that information flows its way to me. Okay. So, last couple of minutes here. Next Tuesday, I am going to be back, almost certainly continuing working on this new window that is going to give us the skills that we can just heal straight from there. so that they wouldn't even need to be on the bar necessarily, although they probably are going to be. And so it can pop up in an arbitrary place. We can move it with drag bars. Oh, I should probably be taking notes. Okay. Enable movement with drag bars. Make sure we hide when the hood is off! Exclamation point is very important. What else? Note, HUD could turn off, off and back on while Melodic Interlude is active. And that's just one of those, we need an internal state to say whether the thing should be shown somehow. Maybe it's just the timer is running. And we need to know whether we are visible, hiding or being shown because of the HUD. Just a couple of states to track. Normal stuff. Cyberknight asks, do you always do an in-depth plugin stream, or do you ever do a stream on available plugins, how they work, what they're good for, kind of a beginner video on LOTRO add-ons / plugins? Excellent question. Much of the time, I default to trying to poke away just a little bit on plugin development. I think it's a way for me to make sure I actually spend any time during a busy week on it at all. And for something like the MinstrelBuff plugin, this is something that I use pretty much every time I play. So I'm personally invested in making it a little bit better as time goes on, a little bit more suited for my use, maybe, but maybe also useful for other people. And so I use the streams for that. That being said, I totally don't mind being derailed. So if anyone asks a question about, oh, how does such and such plugin work? Sometimes I'll just blow half an hour trying to figure it out if I don't know, or showing it off if I do know. Or yeah, if you're ever like, oh, what's your favorite alt inventory style plugin? Cool, you've got me derailed for another 15 minutes. Super easy. I do not mind going off a topic. It's something I try to emphasize at the beginning of each stream is feel free to ask questions, and pretty much any questions on topic if it's about LOTRO, but especially if it's about plugins, not even plugin development. But my default is the coding aspect of it because I feel like this some weeks is the only time I get to make progress on plugins. I will admit though, this past weekend we had a Hobnanigans weekend, and I went down a rabbit hole of trying to make a plugin that could account for the state of the game and what the scores were and what the time is and all that. It was a fun little diversion from all the homework that I was supposed to be doing. So there you go. Excellent question. Thanks for asking that. So yeah, if you have any questions about plugins in general or specific, totally ask them in chat, ask them before chat. Not a problem. We can dive right in. And without those, I'll just default to working on code until the next question comes in. Awesome. Well, we're rapidly approaching the end time of my stream. Hey, Eldless not quite on yet. I'm going to get a notice when she is. So, awesome. Cyber Knight says in chat, a returning player, been back 4 days now. Awesome, welcome. I'm curious what server you are playing on, given Treebeard is just about to hit the Siege of Mirkwood expansion, and the other legendary servers are doing their thing as well. Returning player, been back 4 days. I had like 4 plugins. D-Checker, oh, awesome. Task 1, daily tasks has gotten less critical for me because of the improved tooltips and the improved sorting of the task items. Oh, they're all in bags. Again. They're not all. So now most task items, if it's actual trash, it'll say, or it'll have this type of tooltip. Let me pull that off here. And if it's useful, it'll have a better tooltip with the red text. And so now you can tell at a glance if something is good or not, and where it is good for. So the daily task plugin, I think is useful for just doing a quick running through all of your inventory and finding all the things. But where it falls down is it can't see inside these task carry-all items. And so the fact that those tooltips are there and daily tasks inability to see inside the carryalls means it's less of a must-have for me now than it was, say, 6 months ago, which it absolutely was. Oh, Server Night is on Brandywine. It tends to be a popular server, so you should have lots of people to group up with. Alt Inventory, yep, I'm using Alt Inventory now. I think that's one of several, like Kiki Inventory, that can tell you what other characters have. And I don't think there's one outstanding feature from any of them that I know of. So it's really just, which one do you prefer to use? And one other one. Excellent. Oh, buff bars. Yes. I haven't really gotten into buff bars. Oh, where am I? The one I currently use, I believe, is Buff Monitor. But I'll have to double check. Let's see. Plugins. Oh, no. Oh, this is where I hate that they're sorted by name, is then I have to remember who wrote the thing. Instead, I'll just quickly go to the plugin compendium, which, if you haven't used it, the plugin compendium is a great way to find and automatically install your plugins. Can't recommend it highly enough. So if I were to come in here and say buff, okay, Buff Monitor. Buff Monitor is the one that I like, which is to say, here are the buffs that I care about tracking and tell me how much time is left on them. I find that much more useful for my mental process than buff bars, but I think they both have a place. Absolutely. Well, I mean, it sounds like you got a great start on your plugin life. For me, plugins are just about, what is useful for the problem at hand. For instance, we just finished the treasure hunt activity a week and a half ago, maybe, and the Rich ! Plugin is great for that. And we have some festivals happening here. The Festival Buddy is really great on a lot of the festivals. It hasn't been updated for the Farmers Fair coming up, which is maybe something I'll do. But it has a lot of great information for others. Okay, I am hearing that Eldwith has a starting screen up. So I think now's a good time for me to go ahead and read Chromate's comment and then probably bring us to a pause. Okay, so Chromate, Kiki Inventory is super nice and has a feature not seen on other inventory trackers. Okay, having a text track output to let you search your inventory. Typing /inv crystal will spit out all the items with the name crystal found across multiple characters in the chat window. Fast and easy. I did not know about that. Thank you, Chromate, for tossing that out there. Kiki Inventory is probably available over in the LOTRO compendium. Kiki Inventory. There we go. And apparently there are some other ones that I can't see because my window's not wide enough. There we go. Kiki Tiers, Kiki Roll, and Kiki Inventory. Alt Inventory Rebirth. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for popping that in there, Chromate. Inventory plugins have a little bit of a challenge because not everything is available to the Lua API. Housing inventory, carryalls, and that sort of thing. Oh, and Cybernight says you don't have a carryall yet. They are not required. They are nice to have. They're a lovely little addition that can make inventory management a little bit easier, but you can play the game without them. There's nothing game breaking about them. They're just a nice to have. So don't feel like you're left out in the cold if you don't have one. That being said, you can purchase them, the task carryalls, in the LOTRO store. Oh, Cybernight. Question. Alt Inventory shows the items, but you cannot see the tooltips of them. Does Kiki Inventory show tooltips of the items? Chromite says, no, none of the inventory plugins show the tooltips. Good to know. Thank you. If you do a search for carryall, they are not what I would call cheap. But if you have some spare money and want to support the development of the game, if you like it, then with almost 2,000 LOTRO points, a large crafting carryall can be yours, which is nifty. And Little Redhead also uses Alt Inventory. Okay. Neat. I'm going to go ahead and think that this is done. I have dinner awaiting me, and that sounds delicious. So, what do we got here? I would encourage you, if you want to, go ahead and follow the raid over to Eldwith. And, I don't know, I think, 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 I think It's going to be a 5-year affiliate anniversary for her. She's got some pet giveaways, some titles, and some points. And hopefully going to be a fun time, even if you don't win anything at all. So with that being said, I'll have to remember how to do a raid. And I'm going to have to spell LDLS name correctly. Someone has sent that to me. So, neat. Thanks so much for joining me here on Plugging Along. That's all we're going to cover today. I do hope to see you next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.